Hi folks, this is my presentation on the Grammar to Get Things Done passage that I was assigned that pertains to general issues regarding passage and sentences. This is my second time recording this, so hopefully the audio goes through. In this presentation, I will be presenting the first two categories or columns of this template. You might remember this template that we used during the guided discussion led on Thursday. So if you would like to look at the third column of this template, I would be happy to share it with you. You can email me at npagan1@luc.edu if it is not posted. Let's just get into it. So the first general issue is choppy passage. So when a passage is choppy, the sentences within the passage move at a robotic pace. And this is when a repetitive sentence form is used throughout. So for example, yesterday I went to the store. I got candy. I ate it. It was strawberry flavored. It tasted good. Strawberry is my favorite. So this passage is choppy in that it has a lot of breaks and you have this simple sentence pattern used throughout. There's not a lot of variety. So what we can do to help students with this issue is teach and review complex sentences, compound complex sentences, conjunctions, and subordinating conjunctions. So employing these elements, the example would look like this. When I went to the store yesterday, I got candy. I ate it and it was strawberry flavored. It tasted good because strawberry is my favorite. So you can see we have complex sentences there, subordinating conjunctions and conjunctions. So we have sentence form variety that leads our passage to be less choppy. Moving on, we have awkward or disorganized passage. So this is when the general focus of the passage is understandable, but the presentation of ideas is disorganized. And so how this happens is when the information at the end of each sentence is not taken up as the focus of the next sentence. So what does that mean? Let's look at this example. Julia is an all-star soccer player. There was a tournament last May in Cleveland. The most important thing for Julia to do is practice. Julia's best move is how she scores goals. She was in the tournament. She practiced this move all summer. So you can see this passage is disjointed because after each sentence ends and there's another one, that next sentence doesn't take up any information that was used in the previous sentence. So you can think about this as if you're playing a game of hot potato. For each of your sentences to successfully pass the potato to the next sentence, it has to pick up on information from that previous sentence. If it doesn't, then you drop the potato and you have this awkward or disorganized passage. So how can we support our students? We can teach a lesson on dependent and independent clauses and sentence types to help with this issue. And once students have more confidence, we can teach them conjunctive adverbs as an inner sentence connection tactic. So, for example, Julia is an all-star soccer player. Hence, she was in a tournament last May in Cleveland. To prepare for this tournament, the most important thing for her to do was practice her moves. Because Julia's best move is how she scores goals, she practiced this move all summer. So you can see in this example, the information at the end of each sentence is taken up as the focus of the next sentence. So our sentences are successfully passing that hot potato, and we have different sentence types in this sentence. So it's not awkward, nor is it disorganized. Moving on, we have a vague or underdeveloped passage. So when a passage has an overuse of nominalization, I have to sound out that word, which is nouns that are created from adjectives or verbs, or it has an overuse of passive voice, this makes everything in the passage generalized and just not specific enough. We don't get that information that we need. So an example of this is, it isn't my intention to be so awkward all the time. I just make rash decisions. I guess you could say my last time ordering drinks from Starbucks was a failure. So in this passage, everything is kind of generalized and we don't really have that specificity to further understand it. We don't know what was awkward about that time ordering drinks from Starbucks, and we don't know what the rash decision was. So how do we support our students? We can teach transitional sentence markers that ask for more information. Sorry, I went a little bit ahead. So these transitional sentence markers can be for example or such as. And what these sentence markers do is they call for more explanation of the previous sentence that we have just talked about. So what this would look like in regards to the previous example is, it isn't my intention to be so awkward all the time. For example, so here we have that transitional sentence marker, and we're going to explain more. For example, I went to Starbucks the other day and forgot to ask for almond milk instead of dairy. I could have corrected the order, but I was too shy. I guess you could say my last time ordering drinks from Starbucks was a failure. So in this passage, we have specificity, and we don't have this generalization that made us be like, well, what was awkward? What was wrong with that time at Starbucks? What was the rash decision? So we have less vagueness, and we have a fully developed passage. Moving on to passage context unclear. So this is when a passage has plenty of specific detail without a larger context. So it's when the writer assumes that the reader knows the context of the events that they're speaking about. So for example, I love playing it so much. The characters are customizable. It looks like me. I'm about halfway through decorating it all, and I can't wait. So we don't know what it is. We don't know what it is being decorated. We don't know what looks like me, the subject in the sentence. We just don't know the context. So how do we help students with this? We can teach them sentence starters that serve to establish, unify, or organize a broader discussion. So complex sentences, compound complex sentences, and conjunctions. And we can also teach students to specify their pronoun usage at the beginning of their passage. So we can tell them, well, who or what is the pronoun you're going to use being used for? So what this would look like in this example is, I love playing Animal Crossing so much. The characters are customizable. So my character looks like me. I'm about halfway through decorating my island in the game, and I can't wait to finish. So what we've done here is we've defined it as Animal Crossing, we've defined it as the character, and we've also defined the pronoun it as my island. So I am playing Animal Crossing. My character looks like me. I am decorating my island. So we have a more clear passage context. Now I recognize that we're already at 7 minutes, and I do apologize. I have so many definitions in this passage overview of grammar to get things done, and I want to make sure I go through everyone. So I do apologize for going over time. So moving on, we have word redundancy, and this is when students keep using the same word over and over again in multiple sentences, so the word becomes overused. For example, the book I am reading is good. The book is about how characters in the book have conflicts. At the end of the book, characters overcome these conflicts in the book. I like that this happens in the book. So you can see we're using the word book a lot. We've used the word conflict twice, pretty close next to each other. So it's just a lot of redundancy here. So what we can do to help students is teach about pronouns, synonyms, conjunctions, and complex sentences. We can also teach students how to use a thesaurus. And we can also teach students ahead of time where mild redundancy is okay or encouraged. For example, in topic sentences, concluding paragraph sentences, and a concluding paragraphs where you kind of need to restate theses or what you've done throughout an essay. So what this would look like with a rectified passage is, the book I am reading is good because it is about how characters have conflicts. In the end, characters overcome their struggles, which I like. So as you can see, we've only used the word book once, and instead of using conflicts twice, we've used a synonym for it that we could find in a thesaurus. We've used the word struggle. So we don't have this word redundancy problem that we had. Moving on, we have wordy passage, and this is when meaning is cluttered because of off-target word choice and convoluted sentence structures. So this is when there's an over-elaboration at the expense of directness and clarity. So for example, it is absolutely clear in I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter that Julia is being confronted with numerous conflicts. These numerous conflicts persistently cause Julia to be feeling anxious throughout the book. So you can see we have it. This passage is very wordy and it's difficult to read. So how we can help students with this is to have discussions about passive and active voice. So we can teach adjective moderation also, in that when adjectives are overused, it can cause passages to be wordy. So you can see an example we have it is absolutely clear, persistently cause, and we just have a bunch of adjectives on top of this passive voice where we say cause Julia to be feeling anxious. It's just very wordy. So again, have discussions about passive and active voice, teach adjective moderation, and also just give class time for peer review and revision, because having a fresh set of eyes look at someone else's paper can get rid of this wordiness. So fixing this wordiness in this passage, what it would look like is, it is clear in I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter that Julia's life has numerous conflicts. These conflicts cause Julia anxiety throughout the book. So you can see we've fixed the passive voice in the last sentence, and we've only used one adjective. We've said numerous conflicts, which is fine to use an adjective. We're just not using a bunch of adjectives so that we have a wordy passage. And that's what we really want to get across to students. All right, guys, we have 4 more to go. Thank you for bearing with me. Now we have run-on, spliced, and fragmented sentences. So run-on, splices, and fragments are sentence boundary issues. They're related to a student's conception of where a sentence begins and ends. So for example, after I left school, I had a fun day. I went to the park with my mom. We saw birds. We went to the store. I bought ice cream. My mom bought a popsicle. So you can tell just even by hearing me read that, it sounds very awkward and it's difficult to comprehend, and it was hard to read. So we really want to rectify this for students, not only so they're, having sentences that are written properly, but sentences that others can comprehend. So how we can rectify this is to do activities with sentences that can help students recognize sentences and non-sentences. So teaching them about complex sentences, conjunctions, non-sentences and their uses, and comma usage. So what this would look like employed is, after I left school, I had a fun day. I went to the park with my mom and we saw birds. After that, we went to the store. I bought an ice cream and my mom bought a popsicle. So you can see now that we have this punctuation in the sentence and conjunctions, it's more easy to read, and it's comprehensible and written properly. So now we move on to agreement issues in sentences. So in standard English, an agreement issue occurs when the student has mismatched the number, singular or plural, of the verb with the number of the subject of the sentence. So for example, I walks to school by myself most of the time. However, my friends and I takes the train home after school. So we can see that there is subject-verb agreement in these sentences. So what we can do to support students with this is to do activities involving nouns and their standard English verb pairings. So what this would look like is, I walk to school by myself most of the time. However, my friends and I take the train home after school. So we have correct subject-verb agreement here. Now moving on to misuse of word choice in sentences. When a student is trying to describe or write about something but chooses an off-target word or a word that doesn't mean what they think it means, this is when we have a misuse of word choice in sentences. So for example, I bought a new smoothie mix and it is terrible. I love it so much. I ate a smoothie every day this week. So we can see that there's a misuse of word choice here because, the student is simultaneously saying that they love the smoothie mix, but also that it's terrible. So we can infer that they probably meant terrific. And instead of using the verb ate, A-T-E, they've used the word ate as in the number. So they have a misuse of word choice here. So what we can do to support students here is to teach the definition of homophones and words that look similar so that we can avoid these issues altogether. So for example, what this would look like fixed is, I bought a new smoothie mix and it is terrific. I love it so much. I ate a smoothie every day this week. So we have the proper word choice of terrific instead of terrible, and the proper homophone ate, the verb, instead of its homophone pairing ate, the number. And finally, we have punctuation issues in sentences. And this is just when punctuation is misused or not used at all. So, periods, commas, semicolons, apostrophes, exclamation points, you name it. It's misused or just not used at all. So, for example, I love the sun. However, I also love the moon. They're both so pretty. So here you can see it's kind of awkward to hear that sentence and to read it aloud just because punctuation is misused. So what we can do to support students that have this issue with their writing is to explicitly teach them the definitions, usages, and non-usages of different punctuation marks. And so with this employed, it would look like, I love the sun, however, I also love the moon. They're both so pretty. So instead of having a question mark for that statement, we have an exclamation point, and we have commas in their correct place. All right, guys, that's it for this presentation. Thank you so much for bearing with me, and I appreciate you all listening. Thanks so much. Bye.